Hello everyone, welcome back to Girl Plus Garden, and if you're new here, my name is Jordan, and this video is going to be episode 2 of Indoor Seed Starting 101. Episode 2 is going to be focused on sowing our seeds. So we're going to be packing our cell trays with our seed starting mix and actually planting the seeds. Today I will be planting tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. So if you're interested in seeing what that looks like, please keep on watching. Also, if you wouldn't mind giving this video a like and also subscribing if you're interested in seeing some more educational content, but that like definitely helps to push this content out to any beginners who may be needing this help. That's exactly why I wanted to start this series, was to help any beginning gardeners or anyone just looking for more guidance in their gardening process. So I have all of my materials here with me ready to go. The first thing I'm going to start with is our seed starting mix. So I'm going to place that into my container and get that nice and wet so we can begin packing it into the cell trays. So here I've got my container and my seed starting mix. I've opened up my seed starting mix bag, so I'm going to pour that into my container. I'm going to dump the whole thing in there because I know I'm going to want to use most, if not all of this seed starting mix. So I have all of my seed starting mix in here, and what I'm going to do now is get this nice and wet with some boiling water. The reason I'm using boiling water is because this kind of helps kill off any potential bacteria that could cause mold or fungus. If there are any fungus nut eggs in here, that's going to help kill those off as well. And the reason you want to do something like that is really to just give your seeds the best opportunity for germination, and then of course also continuing to grow as healthy and strong as possible as they stay in their trays or their cells. Once you've poured your water, you just want to give it a nice mix to get all of the mix nice and moisturized. You do want to make sure that your mix is pretty wet. You don't necessarily want it to be sopping wet, but you want it to have a good amount of moisture in there so that once you plant your seeds in, they have some moisture to take up. We are also going to bottom water our cells once we have everything planted, and of course I'll show that. But you also want to do this to help make sure you're packing your cells or your trays appropriately, making sure that, you know, nothing's going to kind of condense or compact together once you water it. You want to have a good amount of growing medium in your cells. Okay, so I've set my seed starting mix, my wet seed starting mix to the side, and I've got my tray here ready to go, ready to be packed so we can get these seeds in here. And I think I'm going to angle the camera down so you guys can get a better look at what exactly I am doing right here. Okay, so I'm going to fill up all of my cells first, and then we will go with planting the actual seeds. Okay, I switched sides so you guys can actually see me filling up the cells. So basically, you're just going to take your wet, medium seed starting mix, whatever you have, and you're going to just fill it up. Fill it up one time. And for this first filling, you're going to want to kind of pack this mix down so that it is somewhat compact, at least in the bottom of the cells. That really helps with your root development and the plant getting a nice and sturdy start once it germinates and it starts developing. And then you're going to fill it a second time. But for the second filling, you're going to want to leave it more loose. So pack it down slightly, but definitely not as tightly as we did for the first filling. And if you have any ones that you think you want to add a little bit more mix to, then do so. I like to make sure mine are nice and full. And then if I have any excess, I'll just kind of rake that off. And that's how it's done. I'll do it one more time just for the purposes of demonstrating. And then I'm going to fill the rest of this off camera so we can move on to our next step, which is going to be actually planting our seeds in this mix. So again, I'm pushing it down just to compact that first filling. This is a little hot. I could have waited for it to cool down a bit, but it'll be fine. I need to get this done because I am a little bit behind on my seed starting schedule. And then the second filling, again, compact it slightly. Definitely not as tightly as we did that first filling, but just so that everything's kind of nice and uniform and ready for our seeds. Rake off any extra. Hopefully you guys can see that. I feel like I'm angling it away from the camera. Getting some extra off the bottom as well. And there we have it done again. Okay, so I have all my cells filled and ready to go. I also went ahead and labeled each one of my cells so I know what I want to put where. And now we can get to planting. So I'll start over here since this is closest to the camera, and this is going to be some tomato seeds. I have some Paul Robeson seeds. This is one of my favorite tomatoes, but for this part of, obviously you want to have your seeds ready to go, and I recommend having some sort of tool or utensil, or obviously you can just use your finger to put a hole into your trays. I am going to be putting 2 holes in each and every one of these different cells, and you'll see here I'm just gonna stamp it down to create my hole. But I am sewing multiples for a couple of different reasons. One, again, because I'm still working with some of these older seeds and I'm not positive on how the germination is going to be. So I'm going ahead and giving them multiple holes, and I'm going to sew each of these divots with a couple of seeds, again, because I'm not sure how my germination is going to go. So I just want to ensure that I am planting enough so I have good germination, but I also want to show you guys how these tomato seeds look. And a good rule of thumb for when you're planting any sort of seed is that you want the hole that you're planting it in to be about double the length of the seed. So if we can see, if I pushed my holes down to where the top of the black line on the Sharpie goes, that is pretty much the depth I need to ensure that the seed can germinate properly. If you don't bury your seeds deep enough into your growing medium, what can happen is once the seeds germinate, the plant can come out of the soil or the growing medium, but the seed may still be on it. So it's almost like a cap. The seed cap may still be on the plant, and sometimes it could be covering part of the leaf, or sometimes it can be covering the entirety of both of the leaves, and that can kind of kill your chances of a plant growing into its full, or being able to grow into its full maturity, just because it won't be able to have its leaves out so it can collect the light it needs to essentially grow. So you want to make sure that you're burying your seeds deep enough so that when they pop up out of the soil, they have both of their leaves exposed so they can capture the light that they need to continue to grow. So now that I've sown those seeds, I am essentially going to continue forward and probably just time lapse this part of the video and create my holes and sow seeds and continue moving forward. I wanted to show you guys this as well. So if you can see here on my hand, there are 4 different seeds. This one closest to my thumb right here is a very visibly healthy seed. The other ones are a bit discolored and somewhat look a little bit dried out. Hopefully you guys can see that pretty well through the camera, but I wanted to show you this because it's best when you're sowing your seeds to pick ones that look like this. Pick ones that look the most healthy to, again, optimize your germination percentages and rates versus sowing ones like these that might not do so well with regards to germination just because they don't look as healthy as they probably should be. So again, I just want to show you guys that really quickly just to give kind of some additional tips and advice when it comes to sowing and planting your seeds. Okay, so all of my seeds are in this tray now, and what I'm going to do now is just fill in these little holes or divots. Now, specifically if you're planting some stuff pretty close together, I would recommend that you plant your seeds and then immediately fill and press them in, so that way as you continue sowing forward, you're not worried about or there's less likely of a chance for you to kind of mix stuff up or get things mixed together. So I'm going to backfill now, and all that means is I'm just taking some of my wet seed starting mix and filling in these holes. Normally I would just press in the soil around them, but because I kind of compacted those holes when I made the divots originally, I'm just going to backfill so that way the soil that's in here can stay nice and level and I'm not compacting it down more, and also kind of allowing the soil or medium that I'm packing on top to stay a little bit more loose than if I were to kind of just press it down around. Okay, so now I've backfilled. I finished backfilling all of my cells where I've sown my seeds, and now I'm going to move this over to my growing station under the grow lights so they can get ready for germination. Okay, so there's my tray under the grow lights ready for some germination. I wanted to come over here and show you guys this setup as well, just to mention a couple of tips and additional things. So I'm gonna angle up a little bit. You can see that I have 2 sets of 2 lights on my rack. Now, when you have them set up like this, you can set your tray going from front to back vertically. I think you would kind of call that vertically. If you have like a setup where there are 4 lights a little bit closer together, sorry, let that focus. If you had a setup where there were 4 lights closer together, I would recommend that instead of having your tray sit vertically like this, that you turn it the long way. Obviously this way, that's gonna only take up, or it's gonna take up more space, so you won't be able to fit as many trays, especially if you have a longer rack like I do. I believe the shelves on this rack are 4 feet long, but the reason being is that you want them, each of the trays or cells, to get the optimal lighting. So when they're kind of spread out like the way that I have them, I can do it the vertical way so that I can fit more trays on each shelf, because each of my cells still get a good enough amount of light to grow the way they need to and germinate the way they need to. If my lights were a little bit closer together, I probably wouldn't get away with that as easily, and some of my seedlings would become more lanky and kind of spindly and long just because they are reaching for the light and they need the light to continue to grow the way they need to be healthy and strong. So I just want to mention that as a potential good rule of thumb for anybody who needs it. So now that my tray is over under the lights, I am going to ensure that I make sure they have enough light from this point forward so that they can germinate properly. One thing you don't really want to do is start off with the lights off, mainly because sometimes your seeds can germinate faster than you expect and they're reaching for the light immediately. So if they don't meet that light or get that light as soon as they're getting ready to pop up out of the ground, they can already begin to start to try and grow longer because they're reaching for the light, and that can just lead to weaker plants or seedlings just because the stems won't be as stocky as they could be, because again, they're focused on growing longer so they can reach the light instead of staying as short and stout as possible and focusing on other parts of their development. So you want to start out immediately with your light. 12 to 16 hours is where you should be in regards to how long your light should be on for your seed trays. This is where I highly recommend a timer if you have the ability to get one. They're generally pretty inexpensive and they can really help with your precision of your light timing, making sure that they're coming on and staying on for a specific amount of hours, and also that you're not really having to remember to come down or go to your growing station and turn your lights on and then also turn them off. So highly recommend a timer for your grow station setup, just again to add to that precision of providing light for your seedlings. You'll also want to make sure that you're monitoring your cells for signs of needing water. So your mix or your medium will visibly show signs of when it's starting to dry out. It will begin to get lighter in color, and that will be a sign to show that, you know, the water is being used up. Also, if you pick up your pot or your tray, usually can tell by the weight of if there's water in there, whether it's a lot or whether it's drying out. So use those as signs to know when to bottom water your trays or your cells. There's no set schedule when it comes to water. Again, the highest recommendation is just to visibly monitor your plants to determine when to get them some water. That should wrap it up for episode 2. I hope that you guys were able to get some useful information from this video, and I look forward to continuing the series and just again taking you exactly through my process and giving you some advice and tips that I've learned through the years of my gardening journey. Before I leave you guys today, I did want to get your input on something. So for some reason, I've decided to start some extra cherry tomato seeds. I am actually going to be giving some of these extra plants that I grow away. So that is part of my reasoning, but I also just love to do a little bit more than I probably should. So I went ahead and added one extra seed, and I want to pick out one more, but I was having a really hard time deciding on which one to sow. So I wanted to get you guys' input on which one I should choose. I will see if I can leave a poll somewhere on this video so you guys can help me decide. But for what I've already sown are these right here. So I have the Gardener's Delight, the Sun Gold cherry tomato, I have the Isis Candy cherry tomato, which is one of my favorites, and then Lucky Tiger. Those are the ones that I'm absolutely growing in my personal garden. And then I also sowed, I think I put it away, but I sowed some purple bumblebee cherry tomato seeds as well. And then I wanted to pick one more additional one to possibly make room for in my garden and also to give away to some of my friends and family. So I was deciding between these three right here. So we have the Green Doctors. This one is Brown Berry. I think this is kind of like a brown or black cherry tomato. And then this one is Clackamas Blueberry. This is a blue cherry tomato. Please give me some input and some feedback on which one you think I should choose, and hopefully with you guys' help I can decide on which one to actually go ahead and sow. Thank you as always for tuning into this video. Again, I hope it was super helpful and informative for you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.